The air tastes of ozone and old coffee, a live wire humming somewhere deep in the console's guts. Dust motes dance in the single neon glow, catching on the hand-labeled vinyl sleeves. Outside, the city breathes a damp, low sigh. Corp.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
In New York, we're reading 72 degrees Fahrenheit, with partly cloudy. Airflow is northwest at about 6 miles per hour. Good evening, architects of tomorrow. On TogeeVision, we're charting personal sovereignty, building inner structures that stand firm against the prevailing current, always prioritizing consent and dignity. Our first signal tonight digs into digital foundations. Advocacy groups are ringing alarms about Musk's X, specifically warning the FTC that the platform's handling of user data creates serious privacy risks for Americans. This impacts anyone relying on the platform for communication or information, potentially exposing their personal data to new vulnerabilities. The immediate trade-off is often convenience against the quiet erosion of personal data control, a fundamental building block of individual autonomy. One path is to demand stricter regulatory enforcement, pushing for fines that truly alter corporate behavior. But another, more architectural move is to actively diversify our digital presence, supporting open-source alternatives and decentralized networks found through the Gig Passport mesh. Consider checking the local signal radar for platforms valuing user provenance.
The FTC's existing mandate includes protecting consumers from unfair practices. The challenge lies in proving the specific harm and scaling enforcement against a global entity that operates across jurisdictions.
My meters are reading a significant uptick in cross-platform data transfers, especially concerning user authentication protocols. It's a question of structural integrity when the very gates are shifting without clear indication.
The game isn't just about what you share, it's about what the system learns from what you don't. We're talking about behavioral modeling that shifts the playing field without a clear rulebook. The real victory is reclaiming agency over your digital shadow.
Patching in a caller, the pattern auditor. You're on the signal.
I've reviewed the public statements from X and the advocacy reports. While privacy concerns are valid, the specific evidence for serious risk often feels generalized. What concrete data points back up the FTC warning? Are we seeing actual breaches or just potential vulnerabilities?
Static lifts for half a breath. The vinyl crackles under the needle. The line is live. That's a vital distinction, auditor. You're cutting through the noise to the structural signal. The core evidence cited by advocates, particularly the Center for Countering Digital Hate, points to a documented surge in hate speech and misinformation since changes in content moderation policies following the acquisition. This creates a less secure information environment, directly eroding the dignity of targeted groups and impacting the provenance of shared knowledge.
From a legal standpoint, the FTC's concern isn't solely about data breaches, but also about deceptive practices and inadequate safeguards. The platform's shifting terms of service regarding data usage, for instance, could be construed as undermining user consent, which is a key pillar of regulatory oversight.
My diagnostic scans show the architecture becoming less transparent, especially around third-party data access. When the pathway for data isn't clearly mapped, accountability becomes a ghost in the machine. That's a structural flaw, not a feature.
It's like the game master changed the difficulty settings halfway through, then removed the instructions manual. The challenge now is for users to collectively rewrite the rules of engagement, using tools like the Gig Passport mesh to find independent spaces where their contributions hold more weight.
Switching frequencies. Next signal. Labour toughens Poke's stance as Sydney inner. Precisely, Kaylin. Building consent into our digital interactions starts with recognizing where it's being eroded. This isn't just about platform policy. It's about cultivating a personal discernment to protect our inner architectures. From digital architecture to civic spaces, we shift focus to New South Wales, Australia. The NSW's Labor government is toughening its stance on poker machines, with momentum building from figures like the Inner West Mayor. This isn't just policy, It's a recalibration of public good against entrenched interests. We're bringing in the pattern auditor again. You're back on the signal. Patching in a caller. Go ahead.
While I support measures to protect vulnerable individuals, clubs and pubs in Nesawabs heavily rely on poker machine revenue for operational costs and community grants. Will these reforms cripple local businesses and inadvertently harm the very communities they aim to help by cutting off vital funding streams? What's the real cost-benefit here for broader civic architecture?
New tape on deck. Pope praises U.S. history of welcoming migrants in. Your point on economic ripple effects is crucial for any robust civic architecture. The Ensawat's government acknowledges this tension, proposing a reinvestment strategy. A portion of the anticipated revenue reduction for clubs could be offset by dedicated grants for community programs, funded by the state, rather than relying solely on gambling profits. This represents a structural shift, divesting from a harmful revenue model towards one based on community consent and sustainable funding for local services. Our next signal takes us to the global stage, where moral architectures are being tested. Pope Francis recently praised the United States' history of welcoming migrants, a statement widely interpreted as an implicit rebuke to the rhetoric and policies of President Trump. This is about defining a national identity, not just a border. Caller, you're on. What's your take on this moral compass recalibration? That's the core challenge, translating ethical principles into actionable policy within a sovereign state. While the Pope holds no direct legislative power in the US, his words, and the Vatican's diplomatic influence, act as a powerful signal for global human rights and dignity. This isn't merely symbolic. It empowers advocacy groups, provides a moral framework for legal challenges, and shapes public discourse, forcing political leaders to confront the ethical implications of their policies. It reinforces an inner architecture of compassion, which can, over time, build outward into more humane civic structures, regardless of immediate legislative shifts. Remember, the Black Star radio program often highlights projects that champion user agency. We're going to step into a quick break, but stay with us.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
Continue the signal at TogeeVision.com. Tune in, Sparks and Stories, Gig Passport.